What's up, Bat fans, and welcome into this week's preview. As we know, we took Gardner Webb to the woodshed last weekend and pretty much went as expected. It was nice to see our guys come out, play well, execute to what we thought they could. It was a little interesting that of the teams that they've played so far, they had 0 passing touchdowns and they get their first one against us. But I think that was a little bit more of a defensive miscue with probably just 1 or 2 too many guys blitzing. Little excitement. First real series that they did anything. Our guys really wanted to get to the quarterback, and they found the back of the end zone. It is what it is. It was their only score of the day. A little bit of an anomaly. So we deal with it, and it's not a big deal when it's said and done. It's just kind of interesting that it came against us. So on to this week's game. Start conference play with South Alabama coming into Boone. They run the zone read or the run pass options, kind of as more of what it's known as these days. Their quarterback also kind of reminds me of Taylor Lamb a little bit. He takes advantage of more of the shorter passing game and some screen passes to really be the most effective. He will throw downfield, but it's not the most accurate balls that I watched. So we will see some shots down that way. They do have some wide receivers who can make the plays when needed, but it's not going to be something that they do often.
Here's a nice run play by quarterback Orth. He's not afraid to run the ball, and he's definitely not afraid to take a hit when needed, as you'll see right here. This play doesn't actually end up being a fumble. He was ruled down with the elbow contact in the ground before the ball came out. But a nice little scorpion move there, as the kids like to call it. Lucky not to injure his neck on a play like that, but definitely not afraid of the contact.
Minter is their go-to running back, and he's a pretty good running back, actually. I've been pretty impressed with what I've seen from him. They seem to run him in between the tackles a little bit more than he probably needs to, because he's kind of a guy who does better in space. So we'll see if he's as effective this week against us.
Nice play by Minter here on the running back. Catch it out of the backfield here. As you can see, he won't go down early. Did you see here against Louisiana Tech? Opening kickoff here actually is Minter on the return. Their starting running back. Can be dangerous. We'll have to keep an eye on him on special teams for sure. Here you'll see another return by Minter. If we can't kick it out of the end zone, we definitely need to kick away from this guy. No reason to give him the ball on special teams.
And then Kawan Baker is their all-everything, essentially. He's technically listed as a wide receiver, but he's going to see some plays out of the backfield, and he's kind of like a Dominic Heath. If you guys remember Andrew Peacock, that's kind of what he reminds me of. He's not quite as small as either of those two guys, but he's just an athlete all around. I wouldn't be surprised. I didn't look it up. I don't know if he played quarterback in high school, but he has the vision and the athletic ability to play multiple different positions. So we'll see him do a couple different things this weekend.
Nice touchdown run by Minter here. I'm sorry, that's Baker actually. Breaks a few tackles. As you'll see in the replay here, 4 defenders had a shot to bring him down and nobody could do it. So that's why he's a really important part of their game.
Their top wide receiver is Way. He is 6'4", so he is a big guy, and he can make some plays, as you'll see in some of the clips here.
It's a big play by their wide receiver Way here, coming back to the ball and along the sideline. And you can see his size there against the defender. It's a pretty big guy. It's going to be tough to defend this weekend. Check out this play from Jamarcus Way. Just refusing to go down easily. Again, this is their 6'4" wide receiver. So not only is he a big guy, but he's shifty enough to get out of all these tackles. That's just a really impressive play. Got to make sure we get this guy down on the first attempt this weekend. Take another look. Reminds you a little bit about Thomas Hennigan's play against Gardner Webb last weekend as well, when he drug a couple defenders for about 12 extra yards.
From what I've seen, their O-line doesn't deal with the blitz all that well. So I think the more heavy pressure we can bring more often, the better we'll do defensively this weekend. On the opposite side, I think they actually blitz pretty well themselves. And I think from what I've seen, if I'm a coach, I'm telling us to attack number 1, Jalen Thompson. From what I've seen, he's gotten burned a couple times by the wideouts of the other teams and has given up the big play. And even when he hasn't given up such much of the big play, he's given up a defensive penalty. So I think if we can really focus in on going after him, especially with Sutton and Hennigan, the bigger guys, and maybe even Heath with his speed. In the red zone, they seem to tighten up a little bit defensively and really hone in on stopping the run. So I actually think that opens us up more to the pass, and depending on how much pressure they are bringing, maybe even squeeze out a tight end somewhere in there, like we've been known to do in the red zone a couple times in the past. I haven't really seen it much this year, but I know in years past we've tried to hit that tight end in that red zone area with the pass. I think that could be really effective this weekend if we go to that.
Notice some of the big holes here opened up by Memphis's offensive line and how their running back takes advantage of it. That fake up the middle with the running back caused that wide receiver to be wide open on a play like that. Again, another play up the middle for the running back. Big gain.
Your ghost is my ghost all the time.
This play here is a big run given up by the defense, a really up the gut run, and it's repeatedly what I've seen in game film, that they're some kind of weakness on their defensive front is allowing these types of runs to continue to happen. It's a nice pass play for Louisiana Tech. As you can see, he wasn't brought down by the first tackler. Got a lot of extra yards. I think our guys are more than capable of making a similar play, and we should be able to take advantage of that in this secondary.
So just to cover some of our guys, so far this season, Zach Thomas has thrown only 1 interception, and obviously, for those of you that remember, that was the one that ended the game at Penn State. I think it was a decent play to make. It was a little bit high, but you know, it was just a great defensive play. So I expect his output to be very similar to what we've seen so far this year. I don't think he makes a lot of bad decisions. I think most of us are comfortable when he's got the ball in his hands. So I expect him to continue to play well and open up conference play in an impressive fashion. I think Jalen could actually have a huge game this weekend. Now, I know it's going to be hard to beat the 119 yards and 2 touchdowns he had against Gardner Webb. I'm not necessarily saying he will beat those statistically, but I do think he's going to be really impressive to watch this week. As we know, Jalen is hard to bring down on the first tackle, and this team is known for missing tackles and leaving wide open holes down the middle of the field, as you'll see in some of these clips here. So touching back on some of our wide receivers, I see Heath coming back down to earth a little bit. He just torched that Bulldogs secondary last week. He really only caught 4 passes, but he made the most of it with the 2 touchdowns he had and over 100 yards. But I just think that because of his size, he's probably going to be held in check a little bit better against USA's defense. But we'll see. He's still going to get plenty of looks, and he's still going to get the ball in his hands. I just don't think he's going to have the output he had last weekend. So I think Hennigan and Sutton really are the ones who are going to see a little bit more of the pass-catching game up from this weekend. I expect the defense to continue to come out flying like they did against Gardner-Webb. I think they're going to bring the pressure early. South Alabama is known for starting slow so far this year, and I think that really bodes well for our defense. That will get them into a rhythm and a good spot before our offense comes onto the field, and just give our guys some confidence and some good plays under their belt so that they know where they can get to for later in the game. I think our corners have a great chance to take advantage of this quarterback. Like I said, he's not a bad quarterback whatsoever, but I've seen a couple of his throws that are questionable. He has a couple interceptions so far this year. I think that we could make some plays on some of the balls that he throws when he's not as accurate as he can be, and keeping his wide receivers in check as best as possible. I think our defense, especially our secondary, stands a good chance to make some big plays this weekend. And I just think what I would expect, since South Alabama is known for some of the smaller or the weaker starts, I expect us to jump on them a little bit early, especially at home. I see the middle point of the game maybe being a little bit closer, where both teams are getting used to each other and knowing what to expect out of each other. But ultimately, I see in the end us finishing stronger than they do. If anyone caught on some of the Memphis game last week, South Alabama was playing with them for most of the game, and then they kind of lost it towards the end there, and Memphis took full control and won that game easily towards the end. I see something similar there with us this week, only because I see what Memphis is. I know a lot of people regard Memphis pretty highly, but I think we're better than Memphis. So I see a game probably very similar to what they saw last week, and maybe even better, as I think our defense could be stronger than Memphis, and our run game can be just as good as Memphis. So for those going, enjoy homecoming, and of course, go App.
I got loyalty, got royalty inside my DNA. Cocaine quarter.